We got a new report earlier today from Marvel Studios, and they might very well be considering multiple season shows for several characters. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about the report, which characters might be getting their own show, and why some of Fox's mutant characters are likely to play big into this move. Let's dive in. Now before we do that though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. We do daily Marvel and DC videos, and we're going to be your place for all the superhero news, but we're going to bring it to you truthfully and transparently so you are really in the know. Well, we've known for a long time that Marvel Studios is completely overhauling what's going on behind the scenes. Obviously, the multiverse saga needs a little massaging, and they've had some pretty big failures on the TV front, especially with Secret Invasion and Daredevil basically being stopped due to issues to get fixed. Well, Marvel is definitely making moves to correct the direction the ship is sailing. Now, earlier this week, we heard some reports that Marvel is definitely planning to move away from special presentations, which I have to say is pretty sad to me because Werewolf by Night, as well as the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, were a ton of fun, but I have to imagine they're pretty expensive to produce, and as a one-off, that initial cost is probably too high for, well, television. We also know Marvel is moving to a more traditional TV model, with a showrunner and multi-season shows as part of the plan. Now, we recently got the new Marvel Spotlight banner, and this is expected to be the home for many of these large standalone projects, with Echo kicking off the premiere. Now, previously, Marvel Studios had been making series like movies and trying to fix what didn't work in post-production, and that was obviously a costly and complicated approach that's now being revised. We thought for a while we would see multi-season TV shows about specific characters, and now that seems to be somewhat confirmed by one of our regular scoopers. Now, this report comes via Daniel Rickman, and not directly from Marvel Studios or Kevin Feige, so we want to take it with a grain of salt. But what he is reporting is Marvel is talking about a number of different characters getting a full-on multi-season series. This includes the likes of the Punisher, Ghost Rider, Jessica Jones, the potential return of the Runaways, Alpha Flight, and even select members of the X-Men. Now, we've known for a long time the Punisher is part of the upcoming Daredevil series, and there were multiple rumors Jessica Jones could make it in there. They fit perfectly under that Marvel Spotlight banner, since they really are TVMA characters, and bringing them back to life would definitely satisfy a lot of fans. Now, as for Ghost Rider, fans have been demanding to see the Spirit of Vengeance in the MCU for years, especially after he showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, what version of Ghost Rider they do a multi-season show on is really the question. We're about ready to see a new Ghost Rider in the comics, so they could focus on that, but more than likely, knowing Kevin Feige, they're going to go classic and go right back to Johnny Blaze. As for the Runaways, well, this is a bit more surprising to me. The series had a 3-season run on Hulu, and quite honestly, I totally enjoyed the show and I thought it was excellently cast. More than likely, Marvel will be full-on rebooting the series. The storylines played out pretty far, and obviously a lot of these actors who were pretty young have aged up quite a bit. Fans love the Runaways, and I would love to see them come back. It was a cool series and a different take on the Marvel Universe, and if you haven't seen it before, I definitely recommend you check it out. Now, this brings us to some characters that Marvel got from Fox, and I find both possibilities interesting. The idea of an Alpha Flight show would be pretty amazing. It would definitely put the spotlight on the Canadian team of superheroes who are very closely associated with Wolverine, and would be a pretty smart way to take advantage of the deluge of new characters Marvel Studios acquired with the Disney-Fox merger. Now, the problem is Alpha Flight is not very well known by the general public, and with so many potential CGI characters and large-scale special effects, this one might be a little costly, but fans have wanted Alpha Flight for ages, and I'm sure it would at least get a lot of initial fanfare. This obviously applies to some X-Men characters, but they haven't said which X-Men characters we could get a show built around, and I do suspect if we do get a show, it will be very much in the vein of Legion. Legion was standalone and did its own thing, and even though it dove deep into Marvel mythos, it didn't cross over too heavily with other characters. This would be the perfect venue for some rather grounded mutants, such as Gambit, who was supposed to get a movie a couple of years ago, and that never manifested, but the character is immensely popular, and I actually think he would probably be one of the best bets ever. Now, I've suggested for a while Marvel do an X-Men series to help lead into the movies, where each season takes an episode or maybe two to focus on a single character, setting up their backstory before we meet them in the overall ensemble. This also might prove a bit cost prohibitive because then it basically becomes an anthology, but we'll have to see how all that works out. The X-Men are clearly the future of the MCU, and they definitely want to get that show right if this rumor turns out to be true. We're going to have to wait and see what happens here. Again, none of this has been confirmed, but it definitely sounds like Marvel is starting to churn some plans internally to get their TV ship righted. Multi-season shows is the way to go, and now that they're embracing a more television method of developing television shows, I think Marvel is going to be in much better standing, and these shows will be significantly less expensive. You simply can't continue to make shows that cost $20 to $30 million per episode and not have an amazing turnaround on them, and that's exactly what they've been doing for the last couple of years, and it's finally caught up with them. I'm glad to see they're fixing it, and I look forward to seeing which one of these shows eventually gets greenlit. Keep your fingers crossed.